Hare Krishna, everybody. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books, right here at the live studios in Hive. And I'd like to offer my congratulations and thanks to my dear Priyakund Prabhu for correcting a mistake we've been making by saying that Hive is Hungarian. It's Hungarian for haven, but actually it's Anglo-Saxon or Old English for haven. But in any case, we were right. This is a haven. So welcome to the haven, English haven. We welcome all of you out there in cyberspace who are hunkered down, locked down here and there and everywhere in the whole world. And now it seems like there's going to be some conflict as to whether or not the lockdown is going to ease in some places. In others, there's protests going on here and there about being locked down because it's the nature of the soul doesn't want to be locked down. It wants to be free, especially in the developed democratic countries. They like to be free. So, but on the other hand, the vast majority of the population are understanding the danger of this pandemic, because this is not like another. It's an extremely communicable disease passed on from one human to another, and it's very, very communicable, and it is very serious consequences in some people, and there's a lot they don't know about it yet. So, but lucky for us, we have the real medicine. They're looking for a vaccine. Well, we have the vaccine, because this will cure you from all material diseases. And that's hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and other transcendental literatures that Srila Prabhupada worked so hard to translate and commentate upon, and so we can be anywhere and be in the spiritual world just by sitting together and hearing Srila Prabhupada's books out loud. So lucky us, here we are. Once again, we're going to read Sanatana Goswami's glorification of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavata Mahima Stotram, and it goes like this. Sarva Shastrabdi Piyusha, Sarva Vedaika Satpala, Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya, Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana, Srimad Bhagavata Prabho, Kalidvan Duritaditya, Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life, air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master, Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya, Prema Varshakshadayate, Sarvada Sarvasevyaya, Sri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin, Madguro Man Mahadana, Man Nistadaga Mad Bhagya, Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu sadhuta dayin adini chochata kada hanamuncha kada chinmam premna rit kantayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're moving right along in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which contains the Uddhava Gita, Krishna's instructions to Uddhava, and he explains everything. He's been taking him through the different phases of analysis of the material world, of karma yoga, jnana yoga, and all the different kinds of yogas and different levels of understanding of the absolute truth. And now we've come to chapter 29, Bhakti-yoga. Summary. Thinking that the previously described spiritual practice based on detachment is too difficult, Uddhava inquired about an easier method. In reply, Lord Sri Krishna, gave brief instructions on devotional service. So it's the Bhagavad Gita delivered to Arjuna and the Uddhava Gita delivered to Arjuna. There's so many parallels, and this is one of them, where Arjuna rejected the dhyana yoga process, the mystic yoga, Astanga yoga process, and here Uddhava is thinking that detachment, spiritual practice based on detachment is too difficult. So he's asking him to give him a better way, easier way. The fruitive workers and mystic yogis who were bewildered by the illusory energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and puffed up by their false identifications refused to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. But the swan-like men, those who know how to discriminate between the essential and non-essential, always take shelter at the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead. The Supreme Lord himself, within the living entity as the Chaitya Guru, and without as the spiritual master, who teaches by example, eradicates all the misfortune of the spirit soul, and reveals his own personal form. One should execute all duties for the sake of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, keeping one's mind absorbed in Him. One should take advantage of the sacred abodes of the Lord, where His devotees reside, and one should serve the Lord and celebrate the festivals and holidays in His honor. By understanding all living beings to be Lord Krishna's place of residence, one can attain the ability to see equally everywhere, and thus all faulty qualities of envy, false ego, and so on will be removed. Bearing this in mind, the devotee should give up his proud relatives, his separatist outlook, and his mundane embarrassment, and should offer obeisances flat on the ground to all, even the dogs and outcasts. Remember Shivananda saying, paid obeisances to the dog, because he thought he had made an offense to it. As long as one has not learned to see the presence of the Supreme Lord, Personality of Godhead in all creatures, he must continue to use his body, mind, and speech to worship the Supreme Lord in that manner of offering full obeisances to all. Because this eternal process of devotional service to the Supreme Lord is transcendental and has been established by the Lord Himself, it can never, to the slightest extent, be defeated or prove fruitless. When one offers himself completely to the Supreme Lord with exclusive devotion, the Lord becomes particularly pleased, and thus the devotee achieves immortality, becoming qualified to obtain opulence equal to that of the Lord. After receiving these instructions, Sri Uddhava went to Badrikashram in pursuance of Lord Krishna's order, and by perfectly carrying out the instructions of the Supreme Lord, he attained the Lord's transcendental abode. By faithfully serving these instructions, spoken by the personality of Godhead to Uddhava, the greatest of devotees, the entire world can become liberated. So, this is the conclusion of the Uddhava Gita, this chapter. Text 1. Sri Uddhava said, My dear Lord Achyuta, I fear that the method of yoga you have described is very difficult for one who cannot control his mind. Therefore, please explain to me in simple terms how someone can more easily execute it. 2. O lotus-eyed Lord, generally those yogis who try to steady the mind experience frustration because of their inability to perfect the state of trance. Thus, they weary in their attempt to bring the mind under control. Purport. Without the shelter of the Supreme Lord, a yogi easily becomes discouraged in the difficult task of fixing his mind on the Supreme. I have to answer this really quick. Giriraj Maharaj just sent me a message. Okay. Text 3. Therefore, O lotus-eyed Lord of the universe, swan-like men happily take shelter of your lotus feet, the source of all transcendental ecstasy. But those who take pride in their accomplishments in yoga and karma fail to take shelter of you and are defeated by your illusory energy. Purport. Sri Uddhava emphasizes here that one can achieve spiritual perfection simply by taking shelter of the personality of Godhead. Those who do so are called Hangsaha, the most discriminating human beings, since they are able to locate the actual source of spiritual happiness, the Lord's lotus feet. The word yoga karma bihi indicates that those who are attracted to or proud of achievements in the field of mystic yoga or ordinary material endeavor cannot appreciate the great advantage of obediently surrendering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Generally, the yogis and fruitive workers are proud of their so-called achievements and are more attracted to their own endeavor than to the Lord himself. By humbly taking shelter of Lord Krishna, one can advance easily and quickly on the path of Krishna consciousness and go back home, back to Godhead. Something problem?
Brian Phillips asked, is it only me or is there no sound? Nobody else has answered yet. Nobody else has mentioned it. So we'll wait to see.
Can you listen on that and see?
Yeah.
Text 4.
Sound is perfect.
What?
Sound is perfect on our side.
Okay.
Someone said that.
My dear infallible Lord, it is not very astonishing that you intimately approach your servants who have taken exclusive shelter of you. After all, during your appearance as Lord Ramachandra, even while demigods like Brahma were vying to take the effulgent tips of their helmets upon the cushion where your lotus feet rested, you displayed special affection for monkeys such as Hanuman, because they had taken exclusive shelter of you. Purport. The devotees of the Lord become completely successful by the Lord's causeless mercy. Sometimes Lord Krishna accepts a position of subservience to his great devotees, as with Nanda Maharaj, the Gopis, Bali Maharaj, and others. Although demigods like Lord Brahma were standing in line to touch their helmets to the Lord's foot cushion, still Lord Ramachandra awarded his most intimate friendship to subhumans, such as the monkeys headed by Hanuman. Similarly, Lord Krishna's affection for the deer and cows, and even for the trees of Vrindavan, is well known. Further, the Lord gladly drove the chariot of Arjuna and acted as the messenger and faithful subordinate of King Yudhishthir. Such devotees have no need for the elaborate Jnana Yoga systems or the process of achieving mystic powers. All these devotees are represented here by Sri Uddhava, who frankly informs the Lord that the sophisticated systems of philosophical speculation and mystic yoga are not appealing for one who has developed a taste for direct, loving service to the Lord. Text 5. Who then could dare reject you, the very soul, the most dear object of worship, and the Supreme Lord of all? You who give all possible perfections to the devotees who take shelter of you. I want to read that again. Who then could dare reject you, the very soul, the most dear object of worship, and the Supreme Lord of all, you who give all possible perfections to the devotees who take shelter of you? Who could be so ungrateful, knowing the benefits you bestow? Who would reject you and accept something for the sake of material enjoyment, which simply leads to forgetfulness of you? And what lack is there for us who are engaged in the service of the dust of your lotus feet? Purport. As stated in the Narayaniya of the Moksha Dharma in the Sri Mahabharata, Ya vai sadhana sampati purushartha chatushtaye taya vina tadapnoti nado narayana shayaha. Whatever among the four goals of human life can be achieved by various spiritual practices is automatically achieved without such endeavors by the person who has taken shelter of Lord Narayana, the refuge of all persons. Thus a Krishna-conscious person knows that he will obtain all perfection of life simply by surrendering to the devotional service of Lord Krishna. This is the highest stage of yoga, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. Text 6. O my Lord, transcendental poets, this is a very important verse. I'll say the Sanskrit. Naivo payantya apatitam kavayastevesha brahma yushapi kritamridda muda smarantaha yontarva histanubritam ashubham vidanvan acharya chaitya vapusha swagatim vyanakti. O my Lord, transcendental poets and experts in spiritual science could not fully express their indebtedness to you, even if they were endowed with the prolonged lifetime of Brahma. For you appear in two features, externally as the Acharya and internally as the Supersoul, to deliver the embodied living being by directing him how to come to you. Purport. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, Lord Krishna is 10 million times more dear to a devotee than life itself. And according to Srila Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur, even by rendering devotional service for the total duration of one's 1,000 universal creations, a devotee cannot repay the debt he feels to the Lord for having awarded him loving service to the Lord's lotus feet. The Lord appears within the heart as the Supersoul, and externally both as the spiritual master and as his literary incarnation, the supreme Vedic knowledge of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Text 7. Shukadeva Goswami said, thus questioned by the most affectionate Uddhava, Lord Krishna, the supreme controller of all controllers, who takes the entire universe as his plaything and assumes the three forms of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, began to reply, lovingly displaying all his all-attractive smile. Text 8. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, yes, I shall describe to you the principles of devotion to me, by executing which a mortal human being will conquer unconquerable death. Text 9. What a gift, huh? Always remember me, always remembering me. One should perform all his duties for me without becoming impetuous. With mind and intelligence offered to me, one should fix his mind in attraction to my devotional service. Purport. The words Mad Dharmatma Manovriti mean that all of one's love and affection should be devoted to pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is not indicated here that one should try to relish selfish satisfaction in devotional service, but rather one should be attracted to the Lord's own satisfaction, which one achieves by faithfully executing the order of a bona fide spiritual master, coming in disciplic succession from Lord Krishna himself. Attachment to one's own satisfaction, even within devotional service, is materialistic, whereas attachment to the satisfaction of the Lord is pure spiritual emotion. Text 10. One should take shelter of holy places where my saintly devotees reside, and one should be guided by the exemplary activities of my devotees who appear among the demigods, demons, and human beings. Purport. Narada Muni is one of the great devotees of the Lord who appeared among the demigods. Prahlad Maharaj appeared among the demons, and many other great devotees, such as Ambarish Maharaj and the Pandavas, appeared among human beings. One should take shelter of the devotees' exemplary activities and also the holy places where devotees reside. Thus, one will remain safe on the path of devotional service. Nowadays, everyone we see, we always say, stay safe, because this coronavirus is everywhere. And so here we say, thus one will remain safe on the path of devotional service. I should add that last part of the sentence to my greeting. Text 11. Either alone or in public gatherings, while with singing, dancing, and other exhibitions of royal opulence, one should arrange to celebrate those holy days, ceremonies, and festivals set aside especially for my worship. Text 12. With a pure heart, with a pure heart, one should see me, the Supreme Soul, within all beings, and also within oneself, to be both unblemished by anything material, and also present everywhere, both externally and internally, just like the omnipresent sky. Purport. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the Lord has spoken the present verse to attract those who are inclined toward philosophical speculation about the absolute truth. Such transcendental scholars, searching for the ultimate unity, will be attracted by the Lord's manifestation described here. 13 and 14. O brilliant Uddhava, one who thus views all living entities with the idea that I am present within each of them, and who by taking shelter of this divine knowledge offers due respect to everyone, is considered actually wise. Such a man sees equally the Brahmana and the outcast, the thief and the charitable promoter of rabbinical culture, the sun and the tiny specks of fire, the gentle and the cruel. Purport. A series of opposites is set forth here, namely the high-class Brahmana and the low-class aborigine, the thief who steals from respectable persons, and the respecter of rabbinical culture who gives charity to Brahmanas, the all-powerful sun and the insignificant spark, and finally the kind and the cruel. Ordinarily, the ability to distinguish between such opposites qualifies one as intelligent. How then can the Lord state that ignoring such obvious differences establishes one as a wise man? This is such nectar. This is nectar. The answer is given by the words mad bhavena. A wise person sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead within everything. Therefore, although externally perceiving and dealing with the varieties of material situations, a wise man is more impressed by and concerned with the overwhelming unity of all existence, which is based on the presence of the Supreme Lord within everything. As explained here, a truly wise person is not limited to superficial material discrimination. Text 15. For him who constantly meditates upon my presence within all persons, the bad tendencies of rivalry, envy, and abusiveness, along with false ego, are very quickly destroyed. Purport. We conditioned souls tend to feel rivalry toward our equals, envy toward our superiors, and the desire to belittle our subordinates. These contaminated propensities, along with their very basis, false ego, can be quickly vanquished by meditating upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead within every living being. Text 16. Disregarding the ridicule of one's companions Isn't it amazing? Anyway, this is just amazing. Disregarding the ridicule of one's companions, one should give up the bodily conception and its accompanying embarrassment. One should offer obeisances before all, even the dogs, outcasts, cows, and asses, falling flat upon the ground like a rod. Purport. One should practice seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead within all creatures. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised all devotees to consider themselves lower than a blade of grass and to be more tolerant than a tree. In such a humble position, one will not be disturbed in the prosecution of pure devotional service to the Lord. A devotee does not foolishly think that a cow or an ass is God, but rather the devotee sees the Supreme Lord within all creatures, and on this higher spiritual plane he does not discriminate. Text 17. Until one has fully developed the ability to see me within all living beings, one must continue to worship me by this process with the activities of his speech, mind, and body. Purport. Until one fully realizes the Supreme Lord within all beings, he should continue the process of offering obeisances to all creatures. Although one may not be able to actually fall on the ground before all creatures, at least within his mind, or by his words, one should offer respect to all living beings. This will accelerate the devotee's self-realization. 18. By such transcendental knowledge of the all-pervading personality of Godhead, one is able to see the absolute truth everywhere. Freed thus from all doubts, one gives up fruitive activities. Text 19. Indeed, I consider this process, using one's mind, words, and bodily functions for realizing me within all living beings, to be the best possible method of spiritual enlightenment. Text 20. My dear Uddhava, because I have personally established it, this process of devotional service unto me is transcendental and free from any material motivation. Certainly a devotee never suffers even the slightest loss by adopting this process. Purport. Although great sages and authorities have established various methods of human progress, the Supreme Lord Himself has introduced the system of Bhakti-yoga, wherein one directly takes shelter of the Lord in loving service. One who serves the Lord without personal motivation can never be defeated in his progress, and will certainly go back home, back to Godhead, in the near future. Text 21. O Uddhava, greatest of saints, in a dangerous situation, an ordinary person cries, becomes fearful, and laments. Although such useless emotions do not change the situation, but activities offered to me without personal motivation, even if they are externally useless, amount to the actual process of religion. I mean, this is too much. I mean, I got to repeat this one all the way through. Listen to this verse. O Uddhava, greatest of saints, in a dangerous situation, an ordinary person cries, becomes fearful, and laments, although such useless emotions do not change the situation. But activities offered to me without personal motivation, even if they are extremely useless, amount to the actual process of religion. In other words, if you do even the little significant thing, you just clean this little altar, this little homemade altar, just clean it out of love. And that's the real process of religion. Whereas you may go out and conquer a country and do this and that out of pride, and it will be useless at the end. Purport. Even the most insignificant activity, when offered to the Supreme Lord without personal desire, can elevate one to the perfection of spiritual life. Actually, Lord Krishna always protects and maintains his devotee. But if a devotee cries to the Lord for protection or maintenance, desiring to continue his devotional service unimpeded, Lord Krishna accepts such apparently unnecessarily appeals to be the highest religious process. Text 22. This process is the supreme intelligence of the intelligent and the cleverness of the most clever. For by following it, one can in this very life make use of the temporary and unreal to achieve me, the eternal reality. I mean, this is so profound. I feel like reading each one 10 times. This process is the supreme intelligence of the intelligent and the cleverness of the most clever. For by following it, one can in this very life make use of the temporary and unreal to achieve me, the eternal reality. Purport. As described in this chapter, one who desires personal prestige in the Lord's service cannot be considered intelligent and clever. Similarly, one who is anxious to become a sophisticated transcendental philosopher is not the most intelligent. Nor is one who is expert in accumulating money. The Lord here states that the most intelligent and clever person is the devotee who offers his temporary, illusory material body and possessions to him with love and without personal motivation. It's free. Why not try it? What do you got to lose? Where did I hear that recently? The devotee thus obtains the eternal absolute truth. In other words, real intelligence is to actually surrender to Lord Krishna without personal desire or duplicity. That is the Lord's opinion. Text 23. Thus I have related to you, both in brief and in detail, a complete survey of the science of the Absolute Truth. Even for the demigods, this science is very difficult to comprehend. Purport. The word Devanam indicates those living beings in the mode of goodness, such as demigods, saints, and pious philosophers, who nevertheless cannot understand the Absolute Truth because they lack full surrender to the personality of Godhead. 24. I have repeatedly spoken this knowledge to you with clear reasoning. Anyone who properly understands it will become free from all doubts and attain liberation. 25. Anyone who fixes his attention on these clear answers to your questions will attain to the eternal, confidential goal of the Vedas, the supreme absolute truth. 26. One who liberally disseminates this knowledge among my devotees is the bestower of the absolute truth, and to him I give my very own self. One who liberally disseminates this knowledge among my devotees is the bestower of the absolute truth, and to him I give my very own self. 27. He who loudly recites this supreme knowledge, which is the most lucid and purifying, becomes purified day by day, for he reveals me to others with the lamp of transcendental knowledge. All glories to the reading groups that are springing up all over the world. And this is one of the first. May you all continue to do this every day or as much as possible for the rest of your life. He who loudly recites this supreme, and all you have to do is read these books because they're perfect. You don't have to make something else up. You don't have to say something even more clever and make yourself a celebrity. He who loudly recites this supreme knowledge, this means to read out loud. It means to read these truths out loud. He who loudly recites this supreme knowledge, which is the most lucid and purifying, becomes purified day by day, for he reveals me to others with the lamp of transcendental knowledge. The words of Prabhupada are ringing in my ear right now. You want to be guru? It's not difficult to be guru. You just have to repeat what Krishna says. In my case, repeat what Prabhupada says. 28. Anyone who regularly listens to this knowledge with faith and attention, all the while engaging in my pure devotional service, will never become bound by the reactions of material work. 29. My dear friend Uddhava, have you now completely understood this transcendental knowledge? Are the confusion and lamentation that arose in your mind now dispelled? Purport. Sri Uddhava had been bewildered by considering manifestations of Lord Krishna's own potency to be separate from him. Uddhava's lamentation arose because he thought himself separated from Lord Krishna. Actually, Sri Uddhava is an eternally liberated soul, but the Lord placed him in bewilderment and lamentation so that this supreme knowledge of the Uddhava Gita could be spoken. Lord Krishna's question here indicates that if Uddhava had not perfectly understood this knowledge, Lord Krishna would have explained the same thing again. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, since Sri Uddhava is the intimate friend of Lord Krishna, the Lord's question here was in a friendly, playful spirit. The Lord was well aware of Uddhava's complete enlightenment in Krishna consciousness. You should not share this instruction with anyone who is hypocritical, atheistic, or dishonest, or with anyone who will not listen faithfully, who is not a devotee, or who is simply not humble. This knowledge should be taught to one who is free from these bad qualities, who is dedicated to the welfare of the Brahmanas, and who is kindly disposed, saintly, and pure. And if common workers and women are found to have devotion for the Supreme Lord, they are also to be accepted as qualified hearers. 32. When an inquisitive person comes to understand this knowledge, he has nothing further to know. After all, one who has drunk the most palatable nectar cannot remain thirsty. 33. Through analytic knowledge, ritualistic work, mystic yoga, mundane business, and political rule, people seek to advance in religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. But because you are my devotee, whatever men can accomplish in these multifarious ways, you will very easily find within me. Purport. Lord Krishna is the basis of all that exists, and one who takes exclusive shelter of the Lord never suffers any loss whatsoever for his intelligent decision to surrender to Krishna. 34. A person who gives up all fruitive activities and offers himself entirely unto me, eagerly desiring to render service unto me, achieves liberation from birth and death, and is promoted to the status of sharing my own opulences. Sri Shukadeva Goswami said, hearing these words spoken by Lord Krishna, and having thus been shown the entire path of yoga, Uddhava folded his hands to offer obeisances, but his throat choked up with love, and his eyes overflowed with tears, so he could say nothing. Steadying his mind, which had become overwhelmed with love, Uddhava felt extremely grateful to Lord Krishna, the greatest hero of the Yadu dynasty. My dear King Parikshit, Uddhava bowed down to touch the Lord's lotus feet with his head, and then spoke with folded hands. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, the fear of separation from Lord Krishna was continually entering the mind of Sri Uddhava, and thus he tried to maintain his enthusiasm by remembering the Lord's great kindness upon him. He steadied his mind with feelings of gratitude toward the Lord. And we're going to stop here. We will hear what Uddhava had to say tomorrow, from the beginning of what he had to say. Now, I have a very important phone call coming in from Giridhar Swami at 8 o'clock. It's 7:55, so I have 5 minutes for reflections, and etc. Hare Krishna. Well, Hythe wasn't a haven before. It is now.
Well, there's a comment by Mother Rati Manjari.
We have a common comment by Mother Rati Manjari, that wellspring of transcendental nectar. Go ahead.
As a result of hearing this, she wrote, "There is hope."
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because we tend to see everything externally. We evaluate each other on external things, evaluate others on external things, in external ways. And if we can just grasp this, and this is why the Krishna consciousness movement and the process of Krishna consciousness is so difficult to understand, truly. Because it has nothing to do with the material body or the material elements or the forms around us, actually.
And then Pranahari Prabhu has a comment.
Jai Prana, Hare Krishna.
It sure is a different experience hearing the Bhagavatam when it is read by you, Maharaj, this is the stage of relishing. Thank you for your association and for sharing your devotional exercises with us. It is the best and simplest way possible, reading out loud Srila Prabhupada's books.
Wow. I don't think I'm going to be able to speak after hearing that. I was already all choked up after this last part when it talked about just by reciting this, what I get from reciting it. I'm getting it, and it's too much nice. It's really, really nice. Thank you, Pranahari. I deeply appreciate what you just said. It made my day.
And Rati Manjari also said a similar comment. Thank you for being my source of daily sanity, really. And then Dharnatai Prabhu asked a question. Forgive my ignorance. When Sri Krishna advises to see him in all beings, does he mean the super soul and or the living entity, his expansion?
Yes. But because Krishna is the super soul, he expects us to know that also, because he's explaining to Arjuna all the way through the Gita, and to Uddhava all the way through the Uddhava Gita, that all those things come from him. They are him. That doesn't mean that we worship everything, as Krishna directly, but we know it's by the knowledge that Krishna is the source of everything and is expanding everything from him. Therefore, these are aspects of his energies. We automatically think of Krishna, not just the super soul. It's meant to help us to think of Krishna. Sarvasya chaham hridi sanavishto matak smritir jnanam apovanam cha. Krishna says, I am in the heart of all living beings, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. I'm getting a kind of sign language from Radharaman that we have to stop now. I thank you very much. Personally, for my own self, that was the nicest reading I've ever done in how many years I've been doing this. That section of the Uddhava Gita, and I imagine that this next section, where we actually hear what Uddhava has to say, after Krishna says, now are you okay now? Now do you understand? It's going to be equally profound and sweet. Because this is the difference between pure devotional service and mental speculation. You can figure things out philosophically and speak in flowery language and put ideas together and wow people with your intelligence. But there's no sweetness. But this explains everything in the most profound way, and at the same time, it's just so sweet, it's irresistible. So who will not take this? And it's free. All you have to do is sit there and open your ears. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Shri Krishna ki jai. Shri Uddhava ki jai. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. We'll see you tomorrow night, right here in the Haven. Hare Krishna, Hythe, UK, the live studios of the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. See you tomorrow. Hare Krishna.